All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished participant, speaker, advocate of climate justice. Welcome today to this event where we dive into one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the intersections of climate change and social justice and the global climate crisis. Through the universal, it is in its reach far from the equitable in its impacts. Communities already burdened by the socio-economic inequalities, marginalized identities, and systematic injustice face the brunt of the environmental degradation and extreme weather events. This year, COP29 world leaders and climate expertise gathered in Baku, Azerbaijan, and to navigate the path forward in addressing the complex challenges posed by the climate change. While the headlines often focus on financial pledge and emissions targets, COP29 also underscored the critical needs to address the human dimensions of the crisis. The disproportionate affects the vulnerable population. So today in this event, we shine a light on the three crucial aspects, the social injustice in the climate change, unequal impacts, access and representations, economic inequalities, in adding the gender issues to this. So at the COP29, we saw some progress that we cannot deny, the establishment of actionable guidelines for the loss and damage fund to support the vulnerable countries, increased attentions to the climate migrations with Bleach to integrate the human rights into the climate adaptations framework. However, the road ahead remains daunting. Implementing these solutions require bold actions, accountability, and commitment to equity. And this is where each of us plays a vital role, whether by amplifying the marginalized voices, advocating for the just policies, or holding leaders accountable for their promises. As we embark on today's discussions, so let us challenge ourselves to envision solutions that prioritize fairness, inclusion, and resilience. Let us explore actionable strategies to address the systematic injustice embodied in the climate crisis while keeping the momentum for the COP29 alive. Thank you for your time and dedications and passion. Together we can strive for the future where climate actions and social justice go ahead in hand in hand. So by this introductory speech, let me just enlighten you with our speakers today as they are going to take us, as I have mentioned, in the three aspects of the climate injustice. So starting by Mr. Ahmed Abdullah, Max, PhD scholar in Mizoram University, School of Earth Science and Natural Resource Management. His area of interest and research in climate change modeling, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, and environmental management things. So the second speaker is Mr. Shadi Waldo. He is an environmental engineer. He dedicates his life for the NGOs, as I know that he's a researcher in the field of climate change now, and he's a member of NGOs, many of NGOs, and even he is in intersection with me in one of NGOs, Sudanese Environmental Conservation Society in Sudan. And he was a participant of the COP29 by one of the projects which is aid research climate change in the humanitarian aids in Sudan, and they participated in the actions. Coming to our gender speaker, advocated, the one who speaks in the name of all ladies in the whole world, our doctor, Dr. Madhurima Singh. She is a PhD scholar, or almost. She is a doctor in environmental science, Department of Environmental Science, as she will complete the submission very soon, and she will be. We congratulate her for being a doctor, and we are so happy that to have her today with us to enlighten us with her expertise. She is a graduate of or a gold medal recipient in MSc Environmental Science from the Central University of South Bihar, India. She has a bright academic career throughout her academic pursuit. She is a sincere and dedicated researcher and impressive author. Her area of research encompasses biodiversity, climate change, ecotourism, sustainable tourism, and etc. She has published research outputs in different national and international journals and edit books. She has also attended several national and international workshops, seminars, and conferences. Beside that, she is the fighter for the gender. And today she will enlighten us about the gender issues and the climate change. By these few words, I would like to welcome each and everyone and our speakers. And I will now hand over the platform for the first speaker as to take us in this beautiful journey of climate injustice. And let's see from the perspective of injustice and law. So thank you for everyone. I hope you will enjoy it. So grab your coffee and be ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Idris, for brief introduction to us, and I will be presenting my presentation. But before that, just a gentle reminder. I think that the second speaker will be Madhurima, which she is speaking about the gender equality, and then followed by Mr. Shadi Waldo. So just an arrangement. Hope my slide is visible.
Yes.
Okay. So as Mr. Idris already gave a brief description about what we are gonna discuss today. So about climate change and environmental justice or climate justice, or all this, the consequences of the climate change. So, but before we speak about the social injustice aspects of the climate, so first we need to know what is climate change, basically. So when most of us, we know that when we say climate change is that the long-term change in the weather patterns. Maybe we will face severe or extreme drought, maybe extreme rainfall and heat waves and fire. All these are because of the climate change, and this is driven by global warming. So basically, the global warming is coming from the trapping of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere because of the human activities, from burning fossil fuels to industrialization, cutting or deforestation, and whatever the greenhouse gases are coming from animals like methane gas. So all those gases, when they release from the source, it will make a layer or trap. It will make a layer in the atmosphere. So when the sun radiation emit from the sun and coming to the earth, then it need to, some will be absorbed and some will be reflected back to the atmosphere. So those gases are acting as they will trap in the atmosphere and make layer. So when the sun radiation are coming, it penetrate these layers, it come to the ground, then when try to reflect back, it again it hit by this layer and reflected back to earth again, to earth surface again. So this is this if this is called global the global warming phenomena. So the someone may ask why if the sun radiation can come to the earth but it doesn't it can't go reflect to penetrate this layer of greenhouse gases to reflect back to the atmosphere. Basically, because the sun radiation, when it comes in the shorter wavelengths, which is have higher energy, so it have high energy to penetrate those layers. But when it come to Earth and reflect back, it will reflect back as long wave. So that's why the long wave have low energy, so that we cannot penetrate this layer of the greenhouse gases. And greenhouse gas basically, when we say is CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and some other water vapors. So because of forming this layer, we will have a global warming, and then because the global warming is increasing in the average surface temperature of the Earth. Suppose the sun energy, the sun radiation coming from sun into the Earth is 100%. When this 100% fall in the Earth surface, it should reflect as 30%, and 70% will be absorbed absorbed by the Earth surface. So again, this 30% which you try to reflect and hit by those layers of the greenhouse gases, again will reflect back to the Earth again. That's what make the average land surface temperature increasing. So that's a brief introduction about what's mean climate or climate change and global warming. So as I said before, the global warming is a long-term increase in the Earth's average surface temperature due to the human activities, basically releasing of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is coming from fossil fuels, basically. And these all lead to extreme weather events, as I said before, also like extreme precipitation in some places, drought in some places, some wildfire in some places, ecosystem destruction. All this because of the climate change and global warming. Then let's move to see this a glimpse of the state of the climate in the world. So the figure in this presentation represent that the monthly global surface temperature from 1940 to 2024. So that's mean you see that in the records from July 23 to July 23 to June 24. That's mean almost 1 year. The highest record of the temperature is being in this year, which is above almost 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is very highest record, and it's not giving a good sign for the Earth in the future. And just moving ahead, let's see uh, the state of climate change, suppose in the African countries. Also, during almost 4 decades, from 1910 to up to 2020, we see that how the Earth temperature is start increasing. Basically, you can see from 1980s, the temperature start drastically increase. This is also they are referred as climate change in this continent. Again, it also some reports saying that there's annual mean surface temperature over Asian countries in 2023 was the second highest on record, because the first one it was in the highest record was in Africa, then the second was in Asia, almost 1 degree Celsius above the average of 1991 to 2022 to 2020. And this is referred to this base. But if compared to 1961 to 1990, the temperature almost close to 2 degrees Celsius. Then let's go a bit deeper, because we said the climate change and the global warming happening because of the trapping of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Basically, this from industrialization, from any human activities that burn fossil fuel. So let's see who are the historical contributors to the carbon in the atmosphere. If you look here, this is the cumulative estimation of the CO2 by countries. So we can see in the first level or first rank is coming USA, which is already from 1970 to 2021, the cumulative carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by US is almost 270 gigaton. Same here, we can see Canada also has the same according to this bar. And second will be China, which is 253 gigaton. Then a third position will come like Russia, and even India at some level is contributing as well. So these are the historical mm, contributors to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So just by looking to this, you see those like South America, some African countries, even some Asian countries, even some European countries, they don't have that high carbon footprint. But so let's see if those are the main contributors, historical contributors to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Then there is one question: who will bear the consequences? As we mentioned before, the climate change have some consequences, like maybe there is flood and droughts and heat waves, a lot of death because of the climate change. Then if this because of carbon dioxide emission in the atmosphere, then who are responsible and who are bearing these consequences? So look to this. This map is showing the annual carbon dioxide emission per capita. It's mean per person. If you look to this bar and you look to this, the carbon emission per capita in the developed countries like Canada, US, Russia. Here I can see Mongolia, Saudi Arabia. Here I can see Australia. So they are saying in Africa, in Africa, the, the Africa produce about 1.1 metric ton of climate warming carbon dioxide emission per person. This is in 2019, which is well below the average of 4.7. If the global average of carbon emission per capita per person is 4.7, if the person who is living in Africa is contributing by 1.1. But let's see, the US produce about 16.1 metric ton per capita. So that's mean almost 11 point something above the average one. So if you look again to these countries, which I said, those are the highest emission, highest carbon dioxide emission per capita. And then look to the other side, those are countries who are most vulnerable to the climate change. That means their climate index is very low. They lack adaptation to the climate change. So if you look to this bar or those countries who are having higher carbon emission, and those are the countries who are mostly affected by those polluters, because those are the historical polluters and those are who are the bearing the responsibilities. So you see that the most vulnerable countries, again, it come in the global south mostly. You can see here in South America like Peru, Brazil, and all those countries. In Africa and some part of Asia, you can see that India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and all those countries are very vulnerable to the climate change. So this is, we can see there is what mean by the climate injustice, because if those countries who are the polluting, and the most affected countries are those people, which is their GDPs and their economical level, their livelihood are also being affected by the climate change. So those are polluting, those are paying or bearing the consequences. This is what I mean, like link that how we can link the climate change injustice. So again here, there is one question: so who bears responsibility for carbon emission growth? Then this report or this figure is produced by Stockholm Environment Institute and Oxfam. So they are saying that the wealthiest 10% nation were responsible for almost half of the carbon emission growth, while the poorest countries, half of the population were responsible of only 6% of the total emission growth. So again, those 10%, they're polluting almost half percent of the global carbon growth emission, while those only contributing by 6%, but they are the one who are paying the price of this carbon emission and climate change. This is also injustice. So to be just we want to see how this climate change are affecting some developing countries. Just some records we will see in terms of human health and food security, as well as economy and like human migration or displacement. So, in terms of health, in this figure in 2000, those are the estimated human death or mortality because of climate change. This is being produced by WHO. So as we see that the number of deaths per million inhabitants, you just look to these numbers and match it with this map. You see the highest number of deaths, it's almost in the developing countries, according to this color, this color, and this color. So the higher we can see that in mostly in the Central Africa, South Africa, here you can see Ethiopia. So those are the historical mortalities or the impacts of the human health linked to the climate change. This figure in 2000, so almost we are late 20, 20 years. So by now, how many people do you think have been dead because of the climate change? Think about that. Then in terms of food security, this figure is saying that it is a projected change in agricultural productivity by almost the end of the century due to climate change. Incorporation, the effect of carbon fertilization. So carbon fertilization is mean, suppose there is climate change, that's mean increase of the carbon dioxide. On the other side, this increase of carbon dioxide might be positive to the agriculture, because we as human, we breathe carbon dioxide, we breathe oxygen, and we release carbon dioxide and the other gases, while the plant are reversed to us. So if plant is taking more carbon dioxide, there is possibilities that might be there is enhancing in agriculture. So based on this, they model this food security, which basically is agriculture productivity. So they are saying that the green you can see from this bar, those countries with almost red bar to grayish bar, they are likely to face reduction in their agricultural yield or agricultural production by the end of the century, while the other countries, which is almost I see also maybe middle countries, which is their economy, the developed countries and middle class countries, like you see here again Russia and Canada as well, and Egypt I can see here in Africa. So those countries are likely to have more agricultural production. This is according to this model by UNEP. So also we move ahead, we will see how it economically can affect the human, as we see that the changing climate for the global economics. This model is saying that the estimate the climate change will reduce the average income in the poorest 40% of countries by 75% by the end of this century. That means the poorest country almost will stay poor, and they're rich because they have the capabilities to adapt the climate change, so they will not much impact with that one. So the climate change impacts depend on your GDP, in your income and economic level. When you are poor, you don't have the capabilities to adapt, so you will face the consequences. While that the wealthiest nation who are their GDP and economic situation as well, they can adapt this one using any technology. And we have seen this recently, even in India and Delhi, we have seen when they said the IQ, the air quality index reaching above 500, then people who don't bear the cost to bring the air conditioner in their house, so they will just breathe that air, which you know that it will affect your lungs. So this depend on your economic level as well. Your economic level is good, you will adapt. Otherwise, you will face your destination. Then, in terms of the people migration or displacement, as we see in this figure, this is in sub-Saharan Africans. So this is report is come in 2021, and in this report they are saying that about 40 million internally displaced people, and all this are they said is linked to the climate change, in somehow because the frequency of the violence and the war and this which is and all the other catastrophic things, it being triggered by again by climate change. So this somehow also is related to the climate change, as you see that about 14 million are IDPs. And this is, and the other one because of disasters. So the total of this is representing about 37% of the total, of the global total human migration. This is very high number. And in other case, in this figure, there is a natural disaster. Suppose for this is in also in last 4 or 5 decades. They're saying that this is a natural disaster in sub-Saharan African countries. You can see here from 1970 to 2020. So let me be hurry. So the frequency has been increased. We can see that from 2000. The frequency of natural disasters has been increased. We said that there is natural disasters, but these natural disasters will increase by the climate change, because the climate change will increase the frequency of these disasters. And we see mostly of disasters coming from uh, epidemics, disease, and this is up to 2000, and some floods. Again, this is a number of people who have been affected. The maximum number, like, as we can see in 2000, this is mostly also by floods and epidemic disease. This again, there is an annual death due to the temperature extremes by the region. As we see there that Africa, Asia, Europe and South America, UK, US, China. So we see that also the number of deaths is very high. All what you are seeing is this number of people who have died because of abnormal temperature, the cold temperature, or highest temperature. So before we conclude, there is some questions that we will highlight here. How does injustice related to the climate change? So in the first question, we will say who bear the greater responsibilities for the greenhouse gas emissions. As we said, the historical contributors are the developed nations like US, UK, Canada, Australia, Russia, China, all those people who are historically contributed to the climate change, to the greenhouse gas emission in the atmosphere. Then they are the greatest responsible for this emission. Then who is more adversely affected by the extreme weather? Definitely the least developed countries, or the global south mostly, who are the bearing the consequences of this climate change. And they are not polluting, but they are paying the price. Then who is benefiting and who's pay for the policy response? If we are trying to shift or shift from carbon or decarbonize the things, shifting from carbon fuels to the green energy, then definitely there will be policies, there will be there will be new technologies. Then who will benefit from this? Because they already the global, the historical contributors, they have the ability to bring new technology which is not affordable to you, and they will sell it to you in the price that you can't afford, and still you can't afford the price of the normal oil, which is fuel. And they are selling new technologies which is million term of price. So again, the victim is developed countries and fragile communities. And again, also the new policies which is representing in carbon credit and all this. Again, also it will affect only the local communities and the low GDP countries. In conclusion, I will say that the climate justice and social justice are two sides of the same coin. Addressing both is vital, very crucial and very vital to create more equitable and sustainable future. Also, it's essential to recognize that the climate change is not just an environmental issue, but also a social justice that is required an urgent action in terms of investment, infrastructure, technology, and financial support. And this is the point of debate, which all the people who are coming and stopping this point. They are all talk, but when they come in the technology and investment and the actual work, they will stop here. So for this further, I will let my friend Shadi will discuss in this more. Now I will have the session for Dr. Madhuri Mathing. You can proceed ahead and share your screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for these insightful lectures about the climate injustice. And I believe that everyone has now got the idea of the climate injustice. And now, as we said that, we will cover some part of the gender issues to complete the whole pictures, because we know that the climate is a part of the natural environment. So, and we have the social justice, and then we need to dig down in the social aspects to see the genders. So now I would like to welcome Madhurima Singh for the enlightening. So welcome, Dr. Madhurima.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, boss.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, whoever is listening. My name is Madhurima, and I feel honored to be part of this program and to be able to speak about women in climate change. The most shocking part of what I'm going to speak is like, why am I differentiating between women and men in the topic of climate change? So let's start with very basic. Just let me enlarge my slide. We all are facing undeniable changes, like apartment new hut. What I mean by saying this is, people want to move into urban spaces. Urban spaces is creating new urban jungle. Car is the new land. It refers to that now why not drive when we have cars? So what I mean by saying this is, people prefer using car and more on dependency on fossil fuel. Just like 20 years ago, paper was a very easily available resource, and we used to depend on it for packaging and folding things. But now plastic has become like that. We use it and we throw it and we don't care much about it. So the problem with this is, like, the apartment is the new hut and everything. When we live in urbanized area, we are more vulnerable to pollution. When we use car, we are more vulnerable to getting sick and obesity. When we use plastics, like Idris is working too much on it, microplastics become part of our diet and plastic is unbiodegradable. So what happens is that this has brought about change in our lifestyle. That is like, people now go walks unwillingly because you are sick, you are becoming more obese. your apartment is giving you lung disease, it is giving you cancer. Plastic is also giving more diseases. So when such small changes can bring so much changes in one human life, won't this affect climate? For sure, because when we look behind our history, what we find is like when humans were walking, Earth had forest. When we started driving cars, we cut down forest. So when we made small changes in our life, Earth also changed. So when these changes are affecting human in a negative way, won't they affect Earth in a negative way? In light of COP29, we know that now America under Trump administration calls climate change as a hoax. So until and unless we all unanimously agree that we have a problem that is climate change, we cannot move towards a solution. So what I'm asking you to is not come to a conclusion based on my opinion if I'm saying climate is changing. I want you to think about it in your daily life, that don't you feel that climate is really being affected by your actions that are changing? It is your action that changed and now that has affected the climate. Moving ahead, when we agree on this problem that climate is changing, then anything when changes brings out new challenges. I am not saying it is good or bad, because we can all argue whether something that is happening can be good or bad. But let's look on to this. The increased CO2 pollution is causing global warming. If you are a species that can cause adaptation in 2 days, it might be very good for you. But if you are a species that require millions of years to adapt to 1 degree temperature, it will surely be not good for you. That applies to biodiversity. Similarly, global warming also affects your rainfall pattern. That affects your agriculture, which further affects your food security. And with COVID-19, we know that how much climate change can affect public health and at what scale, because it gave us a new thinking avenue. Gender inequality.
Dr. Maduri, sorry, your slide is not moving.
Oh.
Please, you can share the entire screen. Yeah,
Okay, so sorry, just a second.
yeah.
Is it moving now?
Okay.
I'll just stop sharing the whole thing. Okay, I'll share this only. Is it
Yeah, you
visible?
can share the entire screen, because if you are sharing only slide will not be visible.
Okay. Just a second.
Okay.
It's fine. It's visible now. Like it's not visible now also.
You can move it manually, it's not issue. You just keep it like this, you can move it, it's visible. Don't make a slideshow.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Gender inequality. Gender inequality. What is general inequality? General inequality refers to when any person doesn't get access to rights based upon their gender. When I say gender inequality, some people might think, oh, come on, every girl has equal rights, every male has equal rights, so think about men's right. But this gender equality data that we have is after comparing a male and a female, because we don't say gender inequality after comparing from animals. Okay, when I say there is gender inequality, it's come from the very basic fact that when something is compared from a male, female have it less. So when I'm saying gender inequality, it's not about challenging any male, it's more about telling you that there are some lacunas. These lacunas have three avenues: social, political, and economic. Now I would like to ask you to think with me. Don't follow anything that I say, because you all have a mind of your own to think and go. Access to resources. When you see in your house, like very commonly, you have your guardians. Your father is generally the earning member. He earns and brings the money. So when there is like you have five mangoes in your house and you have 6 members, whom do you think sacrifices? It's mostly mother. It's mostly some female person of your house who is ready to sacrifice. So when you are having a female member sacrifice willingly or not willingly, that is not a question. Like she's willingly sacrificing or not sacrificing, let's not go into that. When she's sacrificing and not sacrificing, but like when she's compromising, it's more like that she is having something less than the others. This creates an issue such like health. If one person is earning, okay, and there are 5 dependents, you wanna, if you are sick, you go to doctor. Going to doctor costs money. Healthcare is expensive anywhere. Okay, so who do you think suppresses their stomach ache or headache at home? It's in some houses, maybe lack of money, everyone is suppressing. But if given a chance, who is suppressing it more? A female. Many times you will say, oh, she was very fine, she just died. It's not like she was fine, she just died. It was like she was suppressing something for so long that ultimately she died. Okay, so for with female, this is a very common thinking that we hear. Oh, she was fine up till yesterday, today something happened to her. No, she was suffering from a very long time. Due to suppression, she couldn't say it, and then she did it. Coming to nutrition, women have far less nutrition compared to men. This is like a comparative data. Thinking that women bear child, oh, we all will be thinking, obviously, women will have more access to nutrition. But that is not the truth. Women lack in nutrition. Malnutrition is alarming in women in micronutrients. Education. Whenever there is financial crisis, war crisis, any crisis, who do you think is asked to leave a study in a girl child and a guy child? It's always the girl child whose study is being compromised, whether it be societal pressure, whether it be early marriage, whether it be violence, whether it be threat that my daughter is not safe out there, why will I send her out? Whose education is compromised? Girls. Social policies. How are social policy formed? Social policy are formed by the people who have political power of decision making. When women are not educated, they are not becoming part of social policies because they are not going to the positions where they are having enough power to create social policies. Like Max said earlier, that climate change will make disasters more extreme. Drought will be extreme, flood will be extreme, climate change will intensify every aspect of disaster also, just like it will intensify every aspect of gender inequality. So when disasters will amplify, when agriculture will be affected, around 80% of women in rural areas are affected by climate change, because women in rural areas have only one occupation, that is mostly working in agricultural fields. When agriculture fields produce less, when crop failure is there, women are very directly affected. Secondly, like if we go back and we look at these, just a second. Anyways, just let's go on agriculture. Will any change on climate change due to agriculture affect a person living in cities? Like, will it affect a person living in Delhi, or will it affect a person living in capital city? No, it will directly affect a person living in rural areas. It will indirectly for sure affect a person living in urban areas. Coming to other aspect of like biodiversity loss. Who directly depends on biodiversity? People, rural people. Okay, so any changes that will occur in biodiversity loss, that will affect rural people more. Similarly, any changes that is happening, climate change that is happening, whom will it affect more? Developing country people. Therefore, we have to understand that when any impact of climate change will be there, it will affect everyone based upon the aspects they are related to more. It won't be equal to all. If today flood happens, it won't affect me equally to a person living in some poverty or slum areas. Slum area people will be affected far more worse. So when climate change happens, and when women are already vulnerable to so many problems in the society, climate change intensify those problems. When crop failure is there, nutrition is less, who gets less food at home in rural household? It's female. Just give me a second. I'll just change my slide. I'm having some issues with my slide changes. Just a minute. Is my figure visible? Faisal, is my figure visible?
Yes.
because I want to show this index thing, therefore I want it to be visible.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we all see the gender gap
Yeah.
index? Gender gap index clearly shows, as you have seen in Max's graph, that countries who are polluting are having higher gender index. It means like developed countries are already achieving gender equality. So countries who are being adversely affected by climate change are also having gender issues. We can correlate it. Like the countries who are suffering are also having gender inequality. Therefore, when climate change will amplify all the extreme events of the world, the areas that are having gender gaps will also be affected more adversely. This is the top 10 countries that have good gender equality index. Iceland, Finland, these are all developed nations. And if you look at the pollution, people who are causing, countries that are causing pollution, it will be those developed countries only. This is the general idea of women and social inequality. Coming to extreme form of feminism, Mother Earth. Mother Earth stems from the very own concept of Earth being a female. So when we talk about Earth and nature, we refer them as mother. This creates the idea that Earth is also submissive like a woman. Ecofeminism. Ecofeminism is an ideology that is radical ecological movement and contemporary thought that occurred in 1970s. That talks about from a point of view that climate change is androcentric. By androcentric, I mean it is driven by the idea of domination of women and men by a man. Now, when I say driven by a man, it is more of an extreme form of ideology and thought that believes that women and nature have been suppressed by men from ages in their desire to acquire more and more knowledge, greed of wealth and everything. It is also stems from the idea that capitalism is derived by men. If I'm offending any men, what I would like to say is, cheetah are extinct. Why are they extinct? Because some men wanted to go and enjoy hunting. Okay. Many animals are extinct. Why? Because a bunch of people thought that, oh, it is fun and game to have some wild animals killed and hanged in front of our house, showing that, yes, a man can kill, a man is strong. So from that very idea that I'm talking about is like a woman instinctively is not motivated to hunt, to kill, unless it is to feed or something like that. So this ecofeminism is coming from that very concept that the women are trying to be more submissive, more conservational, more sustainable, whereas the desire of domination is what hurting nature. Sometimes this ideology is irrespective of men and women. That is also the case. So this concept of ecofeminism was introduced by Francis G. Bonnet in his book Feminism or Death. The exact meaning of ecofeminism is a philosophical and political theory and movement which combines ecological concerns and feminist ones regarding both as resulting from male domination of society. That is what I explained to you. Every organism on this earth have equal right to live. Okay, so when you are affecting the right of one creature, that is woman, it's not like you won't affect the equal rights of other creature. Ultimately, what do we want? We want an egalitarianism that is like equal opportunities for all. Ecofeminism and climate justice cannot be separated. You cannot fight for social equality and not fight for climate justice. Similarly, you cannot fight for climate justice and say, I won't fight for female rights. It is because until and unless you ensure equal opportunities and rights for everyone, you won't have a society that is sustainable. Similarly, the Green Belt movement in Kenya, the eco-feminist movement, are referred as eco-feminist movement. Chipko movement in India is also referred as eco-feminist movement. Eco-feminist movements have created lots of positive impact on environment. Also because women are more closely associated with environment and the changes that are occurring. Second thing is that male and female population are almost equal. So what happens if you exclude 50% of population from any fight? You will be weaker. It's a simple fact. If only men will go out and fight for climate justice, it won't be equal. So any movement that needs to be successful requires equal participation of both men and women. Therefore, what I'm saying is climate justice goes hand in hand with ecofeminism, eliminating social inequality, going towards social justice, and also achieving climate justice. The developed nations in COP29 agreed that we don't need to pay this much because you don't need this much. So whenever you have this question, is social inequality to women real or not? Think from the point of view of developed nation. Developed nation has no problem saying that there is no climate injustice. Every country has equal rights. It is very equivalent to saying there is no gender inequality. Every person is having equal right, because when you are in the hand of, when power is in your hand, you make decisions that is beneficial for you. So it is very much from your side that you look back towards the injustice of other people. You ignore it. You don't give much of concern to it. Therefore, when any of you decide to fight for climate justice, you are fighting for gender equality. You are speaking for gender inequality, and it should be like that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhurima, for this insightful lecture.
I'm so sorry.
about
It was very lengthy and boring.
It's okay. I believe like anyone has enjoyed, as I have enjoyed myself, being through the ecofeminisms issues, and to know the Mother Earth and the women that have suffered, the man's power over supremacy of the man over the women. Thank you so much, Madhurima. So now we came
Thank
to
you, dear. Thank you.
we came to the third part of these sessions, which is the outcomes of the COP29 Baku. Mr. Shadu.
Okay, thanks, Ahmed.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I will try to share the screen with you.
Yeah, audible. Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry, Ahmed, can you share the presentation from you?
Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. I will share. Or less than 2
Okay, I have
minutes.
a few thoughts. Okay.
You can stop sharing. Yeah. A gentle reminder to everyone, if you have any questions or you have any ads, just like to pass the time, you can write it in the inbox, as Mr. Faisal has mentioned. You can write your question there. Mr. Bakri, I see you are raising your hands. If you have any questions, just try to write it in the inbox, just to facilitate the discussions session. Thank you so much for your pairing with us.
Okay, I'm sharing the screen now for Mr. Walid or
Okay.
Shadi.
Thanks, Ahmed. Sorry for the technical issue.
You just let
Uh,
me know just by move. I will try to.
okay, let's take the next and we go. Okay, yeah, okay. My name is Shadi. This is my first attending to the COP29 at Azerbaijan. You know, the main issue that was the focus of discussion at the COP29 is financing. I think this is the main issue in all of the COPs that we give, because anything you want to do in the field of climate change, whether for adaptation, mitigation, or loss and damage, or anything else, requires funding. So, going to next. What was achieved according to the final draft of the COP? First, an agreement to triple climate finance for developing countries to $700 billion annually by 2035 and mobilizing $1.3 trillion yearly from public and private sources, driving resilience and clean energy growth. Next, this one, the second one about renewable energy. It's about a collective pledge to scale up global renewable energy capacity by an additional 1 terawatt annually through 2035. Next, the third one is breakthrough about the carbon markets. We talk about the breakthrough agreement on carbon markets reached at COP29, finalization of robust international carbon carding rules under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. The Article 6 of Paris Agreement goal is to increase climate ambition, promote sustainable development, and protect environmental integrity. Also, it's designed to ensure transparency, prevent double counting of emission reduction, and promote high integrity market for sustainable development. The fourth one is about the loss and damage fund. Is operationalization of a dedicated fund to address the reversible impacts of climate change on vulnerable nations, with an political allocation of $50 billion. And the last one, sorry, not last, about the technology transfer post agreed. It's about expanded funding and streamlined frameworks for the transfer of cutting-edge clean energy technologies to developing nations, fostering innovation, capacity building, and sustainable economic growth. And the last one is about the net zero deforestation commitment by 2030, adopted at COP29. It's a landmark committed to achieve net zero deforestation by 2030, supported by increasing funding for reforestation, sustainable agricultural intensities, and innovation land restoration project to protect biodiversity and carbon sinks. This was achieved according to the final draft of the COP29. What was not achieved or not remembered? It's about fossil fuel commitments. The efforts to secure an explicit commitment to pass out coal, oil, and gas were blocked by fossil fuel reliant countries. The final text avoided firm deadlines reflecting the ongoing influence of fossil fuel interests. This was not remembered of what achieved, and this is not achieved. The next move about the comment about the finance, insufficient climate finance. It falls far short of the $1.3 trillion that was demanded by developing nations. In the past, they have a previous $100 billion target was only fully met in 2022, eroding trust between wealthier and poorer nations. The second one is about the renewable energy investments. so details on implementation remain limited, but this marks an essential step toward reducing dependency on fossil fuels in the long term. This about the renewable energy is a good step, but also it remains limited, not big steps. About the loss and damage fund, the details on loss and damage funds sources and implementation also remain unclear or not. We have a clear vision or clear visible. Vulnerable nation characterize the delay, arguing it hampers their ability to address immediate climate crisis. We move to the next slide about the carbon markets. I stop here a little bit about the carbon markets. Are they a really effective tool reducing the emission, especially from rich countries? To developing countries have the capacity to truly benefit from carbon markets, and what are the requirements? Because in Africa there is a big debate about carbon markets, is it's good or not, because they have like famous examples that explain about carbon markets. Is like someone burn your house and then you want to pay to build another house. Okay,
Should I
can you
move
hear
it?
me? Yeah. So about carbon markets required. Carbon markets required something about number one, good infrastructure, financial and human capabilities, clear legislation to manage and operate carbon markets, especially in Africa, because, for example, in Zambia, during the implementation of the reforestation project, the country was not able to establish a proper registration system to tax in carbon credits because they have no enough infrastructure or also enough clear legislation. In Africa, also there is another obstacle to the growth of carbon markets, which is the small number of companies that manage credit generation project on the content. Between 2016 and 2021, only 10% of carbon credits issued globally came from the African continent, most of which were listed by only 15 companies. And the last, there's because this is my first attempt to COP, I have two opinions, or a small opinion. For number one, every year the complex of problems related to climate change in developing countries is increased, as this complex faces more conflict related to natural resources, land, and finally political stability, as we have, for example, in Sudan and other countries. Most of these examples are found in Africa. They have their climate change effect, and also they have their struggle in other side. Therefore, there must be a clear commitment regarding the issue of financing, and there must be no delay or procrastination in payment. And the second opinion is about developing countries must have a unfair position during the negotiation to get the maximum benefits from the negotiations. The conference represents a valuable opportunity for civil society organizations, youth groups, and indigenous people to further network and connect, form joint bodies that contribute, pressuring decision makers and not leaving any outlet for them to escape their responsibilities. And this is all. Thank you. I hope that I'm not going very fast.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shadi, for this enlightenment about the COPACO, those who wanted to attend and couldn't attend the COP. I believe Mr. Shadi, although has given you what have been discussed and what the outputs of this conference about the parties. So now, with this small lights, I would like just to, yeah, there is a small notice about the material. There are many questions arises about the material of this sessions. Just write down your contact details. We will share it later with you, the material of this. So in brief, Mr. Shadi was telling us like what exactly the outcomes of the COP PACO 29s, why the loss and damage funds has been established and actionable being raised, technology transfer posts, and then even net zero deforestations by 2030, and the fossil fuel commitments as to meet the Paris Agreement as they have agreed on this. So, and then they spoke about the renewable energy and how we can induce this to cut off the carbon emissions. So thank you so much, Mr. Shadow. And now I would like just to open the floor for the discussions. Anyone has a questions or comments or adds, just feel free. Before that, I would like just to thank those who behind the scene which are making this event be as successful. Thank you, Mr. Faisal, and thank you, Dr. Ahmad, for your cooperations and the effective engagement to make this event success. Thank you so much. Now I give the floor for who wants to have questions, comments, and any adding. Thank you so much. Feel free, either you raise your hand or you can use the chatting box. I don't see the hand is raising. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. I think I have one question. Okay, Imad, you go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for this great presentations, the great sessions dealing for the social injustice. I think that did no one raises his hand to get a questions, or even in the chat. I think also did no one who put the question there. Yeah, like there's no question in the chat in the chat box. But I'm looking for that one if someone who have a question or just can raise your hand. But this is a discussion session, it's not like a lecture. Yes, we need your yeah. We need your opinion also. If you have any idea you need to share about this issue, just raise your hand. Or just you can open your mic directly and then start talking.
I just want to hear from Dr. Bankaj. We have Dr. Bankaj here. He is working in a tourism department, so we will be very happy if we hear from you something.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Dr. Pankaj Kumar, the floor is
He left?
no, he is there.
He's there.
Okay, there's the one question from Omar Ibrahim, Omar Ahmed. The question is said, how has climate change affect your community or just our community differently compared to others?
I think this question is to me, right?
Yeah, because this is to address the effect of climate change, how the community is different. So when the climate change affected them, so this community, it affect the effect of climate change differently from community to others or the same?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Omar Ibrahim, for your question. So he is asking that the climate change have impacts in different communities, different level. So I have spoke very broadly, like the impact of the climate change between developed developed nation, which are like US, Canada, Australia. Those are developing countries, also. Like they are historically already polluted, and they built arsenal of wells. So those communities, even within these communities, there is variation. Within this community, even there is a variation, because suppose if you, it's a simple example in America, the people who are Asian Americans and African Americans, they don't have the same opportunities for climate adaptation because they are not originally from there. So their economic situation is very bad. You may find the door just in front of your door. He is very poor. So the poor is defining in the term of the location also. I mean, where you are. If yeah, we are here in suppose in Asia, in Africa, we are seeing people who are in developing countries, in developed countries like US. We think they are rich, but they actually not, because they also have their own problems there. So this climate also, when it happens, suppose flood happening somewhere, some people they have ability to cope with this problem, but at the same time, you will find your neighbor doesn't have that, and we can see that even in most capital cities, you find some people they have a big buildings, but his neighbor have very small buildings. So if they are in the same boat, that doesn't mean that they have the same ability to cope with the climate change. So if we say just by community, a person who is now currently living in a developed countries, it's way better than who living in the developing nations, like in global south. When I say global south, I mean the countries who are there economically a bit weak. So it have different effects, because depend on the capabilities of the GDP, income, and the infrastructure you have, and the policies, everything you have, it will impact you differently. That's how different communities impacted by the climate. I hope I answer you. Okay, thank you. Then I will proceed. I have one more question for Dr. Madhurima. If we are living in era that there is inequality in education, in politics, in the regional and the country level and state level also. So how do we solve this climate issue if we want to empower the women's? But in this era now, we living in the like day by day changing world. Today you are studying something, tomorrow it's useless. So, and we know also that their chance to education is very low. So if you want to empower them, how we will do that? And if you are going for a simple interview or for hiring, you need qualification, and at the same time, is it okay? Clear?
Should I answer now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. First of all, see, like I'll answer this question also. How has climate change affected your community? It's like, I'll give you more a realistic. I basically belong to Bihar. Okay, Bihar is one of the most populous state of India. Okay, and the problem it has is flood. It is on based on Ganga plains. You know, Ganga river, the longest river. Okay, and it is like it is closer to ocean. Okay, so it is very plain. It is very basic, and flooding is a major problem. Every year, every monsoon, there will be flooding, and still we don't have a sustainable solution. Plus what is happening is like rivers are shrinking due to climate change. You know, rivers, they used to be like, the river bed used to be 20 feet 20 meters long. Just a scenario. Now what happens when the rivers dry up, they go up to 5 meters. So what happened, the 15 meter of empty space is being inhabited by people who are homeless, who don't have places to live. They take refuge in that riverbed. Again, in the monsoon season, when the water comes, like all the dams and every places, they release water. Nepal releases it water, then China, every water, like every basin has enough water, flood comes. And those people who think that they found a home become a refugee. They are refugee for 6 months. And then again, when the diseases decline, again, when the lands dry up, they again shift back to same place. Climate change is making it grow much and more every year, because the river shrinkage is becoming more and more. It's becoming 2 meters, and in areas also, some areas that have little bit of more trees and forest, the river shrinkage is less, because sometimes river trees are conserving some water, the area remains wet for longer time. In areas that are more dried up, people are starting to inhabit those areas. So every year we are having more refugees of flood. There is no sustainable solution to this flood, and the community is having higher disease, low income, poverty increases. So it is a very direct effect of climate change in my community where I come from. If you look around, you will notice so much such changes around you also. Coming to the question of women empowerment. Women empowerment, see, women empowerment, monetary is most essential. You cannot empower a woman inside without giving her financial independence. That is what it is, my perspective. Every answer that I'm giving is coming from my perspective. You don't have to take it as a whole or a fact. Okay, so what I feel like is, if, just take an example, like if you are educating a woman, she is more empowered to figure out how to earn more, not more inclined to get it through interview. But like, if she is educated, she can figure out how to do a business through social media. Like, what I'm telling you is like, you are just having a narrowed vision that if you're educating a woman, she has to go to an interview, qualify for that interview, and then get a job. What I am telling you is, if you educate a girl, okay, she will make better decisions. You know, IQ and poverty are very correlated. When poverty increases, IQ drops. Okay, so when you will have more financial, when the IQ, with more finance, you will have more education, more, your IQ will develop. Okay, so you will make better decisions. It's not just about getting the interview. If you have a chance to decide what is more important, it is like waiting 2 years to get a job or starting your own business. Even in business, what I feel like is, a educated person makes better decision in doing business also. If, just imagine, if I'm a vendor and I'm supposed to sell vegetables, if I'm an educated vendor, I might take my business online. In environment also, what I feel like is, if I am an educated person, I might make more environmental friendly choices. If you educate women, okay, she might educate her children to use more environmentally friendly ways compared to other unsustainable ways. At home, she can promote that. So educating women, empowering women is not going to an interview, getting the job. Let's not limit it to that. Let's keep it like, how should I say, it will enhance every aspect that a woman decide to take. I hope I have answered or explained.
Yeah, you have answered, yes. Thank you very much. I think Idris have some comments.
Am I audible?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So my question is for Dr. Madhurima about the gender. So the thing is, like, you raised a good point, which I would like just to ask in that point exactly. So could we integrate the citizen science and gender science to be all working towards the climate justice? I mean, like, if there is any possibility to integrate the citizen science with the gender issues, and then it could help in the climate in.
Obviously, this obviously, like, see, none of the beauty about environment is that none of the component function independently. You know, everything has cascading effect. Okay, if you do something here, if you increase citizen science, it won't be like it won't affect gender inequality, it won't affect climate change. So any decision that you make positive, that is benefiting the society, that will ultimately surely affect your climate. Okay, so integrating any aspect of studies that exist, like citizen science, women empowerment, gender equality, climate science, climate change, integration will surely help in like broadening the horizon at which people think. Like a broad thinking at a broad horizon. Like generally, I face this question a lot. Okay, like, oh, you are talking about gender inequality, I see women speaking so loud on social media, I see women doing all these things, and I'm like, first you tell me what is the population of your country, then you come and tell me what is the population of women, and then you tell me what is the population of men, and then you tell me what is the population of men and women on social media. When you compare both of that, you will find that compared to the population of women and compared to the population of men, women are far lesser on social media than the number of men. So just don't see 5 people dancing on TikTok, just don't see 5 women speaking and create this narration of that woman is empowered, we don't need to do anything. I always use this proverb, or just to explain, just because you have enough food on your plate never means that there is enough food for everyone. Just because you get eat meal 4 times a day doesn't mean world hunger has gone. So just because you see the women that are empowered, just because you meet girls that can speak for themselves, doesn't mean that any country or any global, like whole the global scenario, every woman is having the similar situations. Okay, so integration of every component but for the betterment will surely enhance every other effect. Okay, so it's very nice idea to do that.
Just one more question, and I will forward another question to Mr. COP29. So if I don't know, but I think in the world the women population are far more than men, and still their voice in the political positions and decisions are very less. So because if he's still talking, also their voice is just wasted. They will not. It will not take into consideration because they are not in decision making place. So how we will do this? How we will solve this problem? Or what do you think? What's your idea in this point? It's for you, Dr. Madin Masan. Unmute yourself if you are hearing us.
If he's not
Okay.
there, just
Hello, Max, just repeat the question.
Yeah. I was saying, I think in the world, I am not sure about the exact number or figure, but the population of women are far more than men in the
Yes.
world. But still, they are they are not in the decision making position that they can take decisions to make the life of the human better, because men they rule the world enough that they make World War One, two, the third also might be coming. All these problems now we are talking about the climate change, financing, and Trump again came and he withdraw the Paris agreement signature. I mean, like all these problems. So what? Where are the women's from this? Although they are population is higher than men in the world. I think so. But
May-
they still,
Max,
the decisions are.
I'll answer your problem with another problem that we are facing as a world. You know, basically in India, the enrollment of women in primary education is very high. Okay, but it significantly declines in higher education. Okay, result of women is significantly higher in primary section. It significantly declines in higher section.
Right?
Okay, so what we are seeing is a trend that the more powerful, the more decision making authoritative place we are going, the participation of women is declining.
Okay.
And what do you think is the cost? I don't think it's a woman. I think it's a society as a whole that is responsible for this phenomenon. Like, you're creating scenarios where you have to choose between family and life and like career. Not like it's, I don't think it's more of an individual choice that a woman makes, but the societal norms, the culture, the overall impact what it has is like one there. Why is primary higher? Because primary, like, you have women that are not at marriageable age. Once they reach the marriageable age, it is always recommended for them to have a family, like the whole societal norms. So it's not you and me that alone can solve this problem. It needs, I'll tell you one thing, like, to form strong women, we need strong men. By strong men we need, I mean is like men who support the voice of women, because ultimately we are living in a androcentric world. So unless at this point of time a voice of woman is supported by a man, it is very less to be heard. So at this point of time, we need society as a whole to promote women. There are many schemes going on. There are reservations being given to women in political. So once we need to make them part of the mainstream, I think the scenario will be much better in coming 10 to 20 years. We will have to wait and watch for that.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I think one more question from Imad. He was saying, what policies and strategies are required to integrate gender responsive approach into climate action? You can refer to chat box to see it more clearly.
Yes, what policy and strategies are required to integrate gender responsive approach? It is very basic, like, to ensure gender responsive approaches, we need first of awareness and education. Okay, these are the only, again from my perspective, other people might have different ideologies. What I feel like, awareness and education, not in women, not in girls, but in men. Okay, because when still in our patriarchal system, decision making authorities are men. Okay, so until and unless men understand that women can make a difference, women can become the voice, it is very difficult for a female to become the voice. So we have to have policies and strategies to integrate gender response and climate change. Two key components: only awareness. I mean, like, you cannot educate everyone. People who are older won't go to school, okay, and they might not be interested in listening a lecture from you. So awareness in campaign form, in movies form, in documentaries form. Like, first is like acknowledgement of the problem. So awareness is for that they should understand that this is a problem. So awareness and education are the only key to the policy and strategies that will help integration of like gender responsive approaches in climate action plan. Max, you are not audible. I can't hear
Okay.
you.
No, I said, Mr. Imad, I hope you are satisfied with your answer. And I just have one more question I will forward to, as I said, I call him Mr. COP29. So you are mentioning about the financing. The point of our agreement was that they are arguing, the developing countries are asking for some number, and the UN and the EU, they came with specific number, which is not the developing countries are not satisfied with that. Basically, I think they were asking about $3 trillion, and those people they came with 1 billion. Is it? So what are the means of payment of this? Even although they agree, I think almost in 300 million or kind of. If correct me if I'm wrong, but what the methods they use to pay these people up to 2035, and what are the guarantees that those they will pay us? This is one. Second question is, they are mentioning about the carbon credits. How do we calculate these carbon credits? This is my question. I hope it's clear. You can answer them. Idris, check this guy. Maybe he slept.
Mr. Shadi, I guess he's around.
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Ahmed. Can you repeat the question? Sorry. Sorry.
Okay. I said in the conference of parties, this one have done in Azerbaijan. The developing countries they came with a specific number which they are asking about $3 trillion per year up to 2035. But the UN and the European Union they came with specific number in their hand, which is the developing countries are very unhappy with that number, which is they agreed to pay 100 million per year. So even although if they agreed in a specific number, suppose they agreed on 300 million. So what are the methods of payment, and what are the guarantees that they will pay this much number, and to whom they will give?
Okay. You know, they have no guarantee at all because they said by 2035 they said they will have to pay. The previous COP or the previous agreement also they said until 2020 by 2020 they will pay their money, but they don't. They said that for the developing countries you need more policies and projects. We got enough policy, we got enough project. So this it's like they take this as excuse, you know. They don't want to pay. If the developing countries demand a specific money every year, and if or they agreed, they will not pay. And sometimes we should carefully look at the details. They said about they said they will pay by 2035. We will come at 2030. Okay, give us our money. They said we say to you by 2035. You know, until the last year, they can give us our money.
So, as per your question, there is no guarantees that they will pay us. So this is again one more problem.
There's no guarantee. Yeah, you know, I think maybe for developing countries, especially I think for Africa, if we have if we union on one side, I think we'll make a better agreement so that we can demand our rights and they can pay us. But if we are not unit in one side, I think it's difficult and hard because every year the problem of climate change increases more and more, and also the struggle, and also the war and the political situation in most countries of Africa is not stable. This all problems is interact with each other in a way or another, you know.